Back in 2023, I reviewed a device that I had no expectations of loving the way I did. That device was the OneXPlayer, and let it be known, many devices came out since, many in my vicinity as I am making this video, but before now, no other managed to capture my time and appreciation like the OneXPlayer did. Until today, that is. Hi, I'm Clef, and you're watching Game Tech Talk. Full disclosure, this device was sent free of charge in exchange of a fair review. That is a loaner unit that I will be returning to OneXPlayer, but please know that this is of no impact on any opinions discussed in this video. They also get to see this video at the same time as everybody else. Much like some of you, I am currently waiting for my unit, which should hopefully arrive any day now as the campaign of Sins came to an end. And first off, I'll put the specs on screen. While the goal of this video is not to break each individual component down, I invite you to let me know in the comments if you have any specific questions, that for which I'll be happy to assist as best I can. Last, while I will occasionally reference other devices in this review, please note that it is part of an episodic format, that this is episode 4, and that the next and last episode of this series will cover devices currently available in OneXPlayer's 2024 lineup, more in the form of a comparison approach. Therefore, this review will focus on addressing specifically the X1 Mini. Right about now, I'll put on screen the different chapters of this review. Of course, they will also be timestamped for your convenience. Starting with our inputs and outputs, it's pretty straightforward and standard to most handheld PCs, but to quickly glance over, first is a power button that works as a fingerprint reader, volume buttons, a turbo inscribe button that will bring up the OneX console sidebar or long pressed for the full-blown software, a Type-C USB 4 support, therefore capable of eGPU or video audio output, and much more, a USB-A Gen 3.2 and a 3.5mm jack headset for stereo and mic support. On the side are the rails for the controller attachment, which come bundled with their controllers, at least for now, more on that later, as well as those little shields for when the controllers are off. At the bottom, one more USB 4 USB-C, their 5-pin magnetic connector for keyboard attachment, an Oculink, a microSD, and dual speakers. At the back is the kickstand, the air intake, and beneath the kickstand is a door that leads to the 2230 up to 2242 and .2 drive for easy swapping. All in all, it's a pretty complete and compelling solution for I/O. Some people may dislike the lack of HDMI, but I, for one, prefer to acquire a USB-C to HDMI or DP cable and not have to think about it. If one thing, and that will be a thing you'll hear me say, is that I always go back to their 3-in-1 concept. OneXPlayer is really writing it, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, they have finally convinced me of their vision, but I do believe the X1 Mini takes a few steps backwards, hence why you'll hear me mentioning it often. And it starts with I/O, with putting a microSD versus a full SD. For gaming, I totally get it. A microSD is plenty, but this is not just a gaming device, it is a 3-in-1. And when I think 3-in-1, there are many reasons why having a full SD is a pretty substantial advantage. Size for one, speed for second, but also flexibility. These handhelds are well able to handle intensive productivity tasks like video editing, and when talking about cameras, SDs are far more likely to be used than micro SDs. So that, in my humble opinion, is a step back. One could argue that the Oculink at the bottom is a questionable decision, and I'm willing to agree unless they have any intention of releasing a dock that takes into support both the Oculink and USB-C for docking capabilities. Somehow, I doubt we'll see such an accessory, but if we did, that would be the holy grail that gels this handheld with a dedicated dock and OneX GPU external GPU solutions. Moving on to the screen, there isn't much to be said other than it's probably the 3 best screens on the market of handheld PCs, arguably the second for some people. I think we would all agree that the Steam Deck OLED holds that crown with its 90Hz 800p panel, and second would most likely be the Rogue Ally and its feature-rich solution, but right behind would be the Lenovo Legion Go and OneXPlayer X1 Mini's 144Hz 1600p 8.8-inch panel. The reason why I say arguably second is, well, it won't be for everyone, but to the trained eye, LTPS does offer superior vibrancy and color gamut space, whereas the Ally's IPS panel has VRR and is also landscape rather than being portrait, but also bears overall more dull colors. Never to an unacceptable degree, but the difference is still noticeable. So here's the thing, I play mostly modern games where portrait isn't an issue and I hardly ever play full screen. I rock my games in borderless full. Why? Well, because regardless of if I have 30, 60, or the full 144 FPS that the panel can handle, being borderless means that your panel is running at its best response time, and for a 144Hz portrait panel, that means that scan lines are nearly impossible to ever see, that which is a mega advantage of VRR. The long detour to tell you that personally, I prefer the vibrancy of this panel over the VRR less colorful option of the Win Mini 2024, the Rogue Ally, and Rogue Ally X. But don't get me wrong, I am absolutely happy with both, I just have a preference. Now for audio, ever since the OneX Fly, I find that the Armin audio tweaking showed actual benefits to the quality of audio that comes out of OneXPlayer's latest offerings, and I would say that this is a quality that has persisted in most other devices I've tested from the brand since. The audio is rich, is full, can get quite loud, but also I like that the air outtake and speakers are not on the same side. Something that I critiqued the Lenovo Legion Go for, because while yes, the fans can definitely be heard, they each come out from a different place, and I find that this helps the speakers to be able to drown out the fan noise. Whereas on the Legion Go, for example, it all comes blended together and it really deters the quality of sound from the otherwise very good speakers of the Go. The X1 Mini is also very well equipped, but without that conflicting notion. It's hard to reproduce exactly as I hear it, but please know that the difference is substantial and that the result of what I hear is overall quite pleasant, and I would argue without question that out of any boutique brands making handheld PCs, the audio is considerably best with OneXPlayer, better than GPD's offering, which is overall good, and far better than Ioneo's. Performance is a subject in which you could make 5 episodes on alone, because of course there are so many variables and so many numbers to address and crunch. That is why I'm making the conscious decision of providing broad strokes to address performance, to save your time, to save mine, but also because this is the one aspect that you can hear, read, or listen to the most. In a nutshell, performance is, at least as of making this review, the absolute best in the PC handheld market. It is capable of playing nearly any and every AAA games, including the most demanding ones, never at full resolution, of course, but where there is a will, there is a way. So where's the catch? Well, for those who may not know, the 7840U and 8840U effectively do have the same GPU, same clocks, same cores, same threads. It is said that there is a slight difference in power management and overall tweakability, but that usually accounts to less than 5% difference. In other words, on a 60 FPS performance indicator, the 8840U might get 62, 63 FPS. It's not significant. When thinking of the productivity performance, the outcome is about the same, therefore you'll have far better results if you can somehow keep your TDP up at longer times with the use of an external battery, for example, or with driver updates over time. That's not to say that performance isn't good, it is, but more to understand that there shouldn't be FOMO if you're coming from a 7840U looking into this device, or at least your motives should land elsewhere. With that said, anything from even Switch or PS3 emulation, from video editing or 3D modeling, it can do it all. And as a 3-in-1 with the right equipment, it does have a leg over some of the more popular PC handhelds on the market, such as the Steam Deck, the Rogue Ally, and the Legion Go. So all in all, though it is said that the Z1 Extreme versus the 7840U are nearly identical except an AI chip, and that the 7840U and 8840U are basically the same product rebranded, which I would for the most part agree, there is still some slight differences. To put in percentage and in perspective, if you were to take 5 different 8840U devices, you might find a 1 to 2% variability between each based mainly on design, heat, etc. 8840U versus 7840U, 3 to 5%. Versus the Z1 Extreme, I'd say 5 to 10% because of all the benchmarkings I've done. The gap is often bigger than expected, and I would consider that most times it is because mainline AMD drivers are not always licensed, so you're oftentimes stuck having to wait longer on Z1 Extreme or to bypass the official channels. Versus the 6840U, the Steam Deck OLED, and the 155H from Intel, it's becoming more in the range of anywhere between 10 to 25% uplift. Of course, that's a fairly wide range, and that will differ on many variability factors, each for various reasons. Before changing chapters, someone asked if I could try COD Warzone. Buddy, I tried, but I was stuck in connecting for more than 15 minutes. Sorry that I couldn't pull it through, but if it is any indication, the menus ran smoothly. When it comes to temperature, I'm looking at it more from a practical point of view, though I would put some numbers on screen. Basically, this is the kind of device where temperatures should simply never be an issue. As long as you are in handheld or laptop/tabletop mode, if you intend to edit while holding this thing, it can get pretty hot when pushing the APU, uncomfortably so, I'd say. Now with that said, because the center front of the unit is basically all screen, I can openly say that I experience discomfort every time I hold it in tablet mode, because it means that there will be finger smushes on the screen, pretty much guaranteed. So yeah, can it get warm? Sure. One must not forget that this is cutting edge tech to be able to push this much power in such a small form factor. Well, not small, but you know what I mean. That power comes with energy expenditure, and as science teaches us, energy and heat go hand in hand, so no miracles there, but also, in most case scenarios, to be expected, you would have up to approximately 5 hours of battery at the lowest TDP of 4 watt and reduced screen brightness, volume, etc. But if you crank this all the way, you're looking more at just shy past 1 hour on 30 watt TDP. Much like any other handheld PC, the number will greatly vary based off of what you do and what TDP you set it at. What I personally do is I adjust myself accordingly. If I know that I'm hopping on a flight like I soon will, I prepare myself with a battery packed and ND titles where I know that I'll be able to milk that device for as long as possible. But if I am at home with no concerns of having guaranteed access to a wall outlet, I just go 30 watt TDP and play some AAA games. So how about noise? Well, it's always hard to put into words, so I'll play this little test for you. The speakers you'll hear are being captured by microphones where my ears are. This is one of the most exciting features of the X1 and X1 Mini, and can I just say I wasn't a fan at all of the concept on the OXP2 and 2 Pro. I am also a fan of all the love and support you guys have been giving me. The channel is currently in its best ever performance curve, and if there is an apex to it, I haven't reached it yet because there is no sign of slowing down. So if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, take it from the 700 plus viewers that have in the last 28 days that this channel will bring you value for all your gaming tech needs. And as always, please consider liking the video to help more and more people see it. Here, the ergonomics are far superior and the overall quality of the controllers are much better. To me, the previous solution felt forced onto users, and by forced, I mean that it wasn't ergonomically sound, it wasn't pretty, and sure, it wasn't better function-wise. Now, these ones though, they are more elegant, they offer better features and ergonomics, and they make way more sense even once removed. When I originally backed the X1 Intel, honestly, I wasn't even interested in the controllers like that. They were simply a mean to an end, but as I got to play with them over time, I realized that they are effectively to the handheld PC space what the Galileo G8 was to the mobile gaming market. Absolute game changers. These controllers are, to me at least, the step up that the space can absolutely be shocked by. It's not that I don't like the ergonomic of the Deck or Ally or Win4 or INEO2s or any other PC handheld, but rather it's that the 3-in-1 is executed so fairly high on every one of those concepts. Take for example the GPD Win Max 2. right? It is undoubtedly a better laptop than the X1 Mini, but not by a massive lot. As long as you use the keyboard, of course, but the X1s do a better job with their transformative nature of also being a considerably better handheld, despite the WinMax 2 being able to be one as well. Take the OneXFly. It is a better handheld than the X1 Mini, I don't have to make pretense. But is it massively better? Most sincerely, it isn't. When thinking productivity, the OneXFly will literally make me step away despite having a keyboard and mouse mode. It just sucks downright bad in comparison, whereas the X1 Mini, it's not only viable, it's actually a very well put together solution for it. And that is largely because of the modularity of this X1 lines of products. But back to the controllers. For the most part, everything is nice here. The sticks aren't full-sized, not small, more like medium, but that can easily be addressed with cap sleeves, which I will seek out as I don't like the convex except on large sticks. These are for the most part fine, but I would still prefer concave considering that it is slightly smaller in radius. As for the face buttons and D-pad, chef's kiss all the way. Guys, a year ago, I would have told you that mechanical buttons are just not meant for D-pads and face buttons, but I have tested so many since that I come to understand that the quality, much like it is with membrane, greatly differs from one device to another, and when it comes to the X1 controllers, they got that good stuff. As for the bumpers, thanks to Fox for teaching me the ways, they are very wide, click nicely from everywhere, very nice click too, and same goes for the analog triggers, very comfortable and wide. Bit of a little mushy effect at full actuation, not unpleasant, but something some people may want to know. Add the paddles in the back and the rumble that is quite decent. Honestly, the X1 controller started feeling more like on par with an elite console controller than any other handheld I've laid hands on. So as someone that is building more and more of a reputation as a controller reviewer, I did the only next logical thing to do, and I benchmarked those things. Bit of a sad moment as I'm editing this video, guys. I realized that the testings I left in the X1 Mini and the X1 Mini has been shipped, and I no longer have it. With that being said, the controllers attached pulled at 125 Hz, the latency and jitter was stopped here. I also pulled the dongle, which actually did 250 Hz, which was funny, and the mouse does feel a little smoother when using the dongle. However, the jitter and latency is a little higher, nothing alarming, it's just fine. And also I tried overclocking both and it didn't work, and I strongly recommend against it because the connected method actually made the controller stop from working. And so that is it. Sorry for that, guys. Actually, next chapter, 3-in-1. Nothing is ever perfect, and to me, the one con is particular. It lies in the conflict of the approach that OneXPlayer is giving us. And I want to take a minute to celebrate the improvement both in communications and designs that OXP have adopted in the last year or so, a massive step forward and in the best of directions. But when I go to the OneXPlayer store and I see that the keyboard does not seem to take part of new X1 Mini purchases, I hope it is simply missing from the listing but will actually be included. When I read that the controllers are a complimentary gift, I'm baffled at the thought that the wording even exists. Okay guys, this may sound a bit grasping at straws, but to me, it makes absolutely no sense. It's as if I would sell you a car on the premise of going from point A to point B, but I tell you that the wheels are complimentary, that for a limited time, I'll include pedals, and that your gas tank is an extra $50. Except when looking at the X1 Mini, the wheels are the controllers, the pedals is the keyboard, and the gas tank is that controller attachment. It doesn't make sense. So is it really a car that takes me from point A to point B then? OneXPlayer markets these devices as being 3-in-1. I do believe they are doing themselves a disservice by making it seem like the very things that make it a 3-in-1 is then presented as option or accessories. From a marketing point of view, I find that it is taking a rather beautifully crafted solution and presentation and making it complicated for consumers by putting unnecessary walls between the vision and the execution. And the best example I have is the one I experienced with this guy, the center attachment. I could never be bothered to buy it. And now that I tested it, I'm ordering one the moment I'm done with this video because this is a shockingly good controller solution. One that I could easily see myself using over another that's taking space at my gaming desk. 4-in-1, anybody? I mean, jokes aside, if you see this OXP team, please consider these words. For people like me to believe in your 3-in-1 concept, you should do everything in your power to get the full vision in consumers' hands, especially with how far you've come with your concept. That leaves us with price and availability. Now, availability is simple. You simply go on their website, you can order now. That's how I ordered my X1 8840U, whereas the Mini, from what I understand, should start shipping late July, after which I would expect that most orders would be fulfilled within a week's time, depending on where you are in the world. As for price, I'll put their listing on screen, but the part that leaves me confused is that it doesn't seem to list the keyboard, though it was included during the IGG campaign. I won't strum those chords any longer. I spoke my mind on that, but that should further emphasize the point that I was trying to make. Then if you want the connector, which I strongly would recommend, it will cost you an extra $39 currently on sale, or $59 regular. As I completely revisited my thoughts to compose this conclusion, this is very important for me to get across. My tone may have appeared unjust at times, as if I want to pick at the X1 Mini for not being greater. This couldn't be further away from the truth. The X1 Mini is great, it is an amazing handheld, and the only reason why the tone may sometimes seem filled with constructive criticisms is because for the few points of contentions I listed, the solution is so close, so little is needed, that it's almost infuriating that it isn't just perfect. Since my first PC handhelds, the GPD Win 2, I always grappled with the thought of, is it a PC? Is it a handheld? Is it a laptop? And throughout my lifetime, it mostly always ended up being one of the three effectively, never all at the same time. The GPD Win Max 2 may have been the first to do it decently, and it still has some advantages over the X1 lineup, but dare I say, this 3-in-1 does offer a better balance overall, elevating it to not only be the best absolute 3-in-1 solution on the market, but also my new personal favorite handheld thus far by successfully besting the OneXPlayer. And I told you why during this review. It's basically because it's about 90% as good as the OneXPlayer as a handheld, but it's 200 times better at the other stuffs, making it just overall a much better rounded device. And so there you have it. The X1 Mini strikes a better balance in terms of weight, size, comfort than the X1, and while the X1 remains amazing in its own right, I wouldn't recommend getting both. If you are more the tabletop stationary kind of individual, the X1 is probably the better pick. If you are hoping for a better balance in terms of portability, I don't think we'll see better than the X1 Mini for the rest of 2024, not at least in my own personal opinion. I also sincerely hope this device will get a Strix Point update when we cross that bridge. Seeing as the OneXPlayer didn't get an 8840U one, the last thing I'll say about the X1 Mini is that I sincerely hope this one will get a yearly refresh at the very least. Thanks for watching. Wow, if you're still here, big hugs and kisses, because that sure was packed. Make sure to tune in to the other episodes for more content about the X1 Mini and other devices that compete with it. Cheers. Peace.